bear with me. There we go. Deidre, a little about you?
Ah, uh, yeah, but we can probably skip this. I'm pretty passionate about business architecture for anyone who knows me well enough, and getting the profession out there. So my goal has been for several years now is to really equip people with the skills and the ability to get into the architectural field.
And I'm impressed by the list of your customers and your most recent one, Stanford
Yes,
University. So
yes,
you're
very.
probably as bright as your Canadian student. Okay, and there's some about me. Who does it? You or me?
Um, well, I would just like to introduce you. So Daniel has been not only a great mentor and support to us in terms of Agora getting into support training, but also supported us through materials, conversations, working with. So you've got Benchmark Consulting as well as Iris Business Architect software. So maybe if you can just say a little bit more about that, Daniel, that would be
Yeah,
great.
well,
But great partner to work with.
we provide consulting services to assist you in implementing either your business or enterprise architecture. We also sell a software called Iris Business Architect, which is an enterprise architecture software application entirely accessible through your browser. I have a bunch of followers on LinkedIn, and I wrote a book that is available on Amazon. It's available either in French or English. Most do buy it in English. Um, and I've been contributing to the CIO.com for quite some time. This is the book that I wrote not too long ago. It's meant for our clients, but most of the people that are purchasing it today are not. And I'm getting very good reviews from people that I don't know. I'd like to thank them, but I don't know them. But I'm very happy about it. It's got a bunch of figures and it's about $10. It's very affordable should you be interested in it. Um, Today's presentation is going to be about the iceberg syndrome with business architecture. Now, most enterprises do recognize that they need technology, and they have no clue what it means because getting technology is extremely important to keep yourself relevant among all your competitors. But it's much more than that. You need executive sponsorship. You need business architects. You need to be more customer driven. You need business design and strategies, valuable data. You need to be able to do capability-based roadmaps. You need to be able to identify business outcomes linked to your business strategies. You need to have change management within your organization so that people accept the changes that are required to that new technology. And you need an agile mindset because it's almost certain that things will change during the course of the delivery of a roadmap, and you need to adjust at all levels. Uh, Technology is rampant everywhere, and most people think of IT-driven innovations. There are multiple of them, but there are so many innovations out there that are absolutely not related to IT. Materials are changing a lot. Smart cities are happening, especially in Asia. Transportation is changing a lot. Uh, we're going to see drones a lot soon. Energy has got to change. The weather is there to remind us of that. Biomedical, it's changing everything, and including vaccines environmentally, things are also changing a lot, and the food is also changing a lot. We may eat meat that we manufacture very soon. To execute the implementation of technology, you need executive sponsorship. And the reason is that many large-scale projects fail. And the reason number one is lack of transparency. There's no broad view of vision and strategies among top managers. People do not prioritize. There are too many programs and projects and too few resources. The second reason why large-scale change fail a lot is people plan for way too long, and they are very inflexible in their planning and in setting up their milestones. Another one is once the project starts, they delegate responsibility to the project manager, and your managers are nowhere to be seen. You've got to avoid all that because this is all recipe for failure. Ideally, you need to have some kind of strategic business transformation governance committee, and it should be made of change managers, strategy experts, business architects, et cetera, and it should be rampant in every business unit that you have. And it should be reporting to the COO or someone very high up in your organization. Now, finding a top management sponsor is essential for your business architecture practice to lead and to be able to do technology innovation implementation successfully. You need to find a good sponsor, which is there for the entire length of your project or your initiative or your roadmap. You need to find this person to build a good elevator pitch. You need to know before you build your good elevator pitch what problem is nagging your sponsor. And you need to be able to describe extremely simply what you do and outline how much you would be you would cost, and you need to elaborate what you could either generate as revenue or save in lowering cost. To succeed in your innovations and technology implementation, you also need a good team of business architects, or at least one, and/or enterprise architects. They will typically be involved in those 5 steps: business design and strategy, architecting transformation, either at the capability level, at the application level, at the organization level, et cetera, et cetera. And then the key is to find problematic capabilities measured in several kinds of ways. You need also in an agile corporation to be more involved in initiatives, which are typically linked to capabilities that are problematic. You can also be involved in the definitions of requirements, in the planning of requirements, epics, and user stories. Instead of having business analysts with a blank page, they could be using your business architecture model to find definitions of words, et cetera, and analyze impact of what they're planning. And you should be able to measure whatever you're architecting. We've done a survey earlier this year about how people are, or how organizations are using architecture in those 5 different steps. And it varies a lot, but there's still progress to be made in all 5 major steps. Even getting strategies and objectives is easier than it used to be, but getting involved in initiative planning is not that well done. Architecture, the problem is they'll do application and lower level technical architecture, but capability and other business architecture is not well done in most enterprises. And more than half of EAs are not involved in the planning of agile deliveries. And weirdly enough, measurement is not critical, and yet it's extremely imperative that you measure your capabilities and etc. Building a successful business architecture team requires to hire or train certified business architects, the way Agora Insights does, for example. It would be ideal if you could also implement a customer-centric business architecture practice and make sure that your CBAs are involved with either roadmap, program, and management planning based on measured capabilities, and focus on those that are problematic and of high importance. Being involved in the rationalization of apps is also important. And then streamlining business process is another important thing where business architects can get involved with either capabilities, customer journeys, and or value streams. It is imperative that while you innovate, you become more customer driven. And customer driven means this. You need to be able to provide value to your customer during the lifetime of the duration of the customer. In other words, it's not enough to go and get and offer a service or a product and then leave your customer alone. You need to provide a long-lasting value proposition for your customers. Marketing is not about push, but pull. Content marketing, we do at Benchmark Consulting, is a good way of attracting people that approach you, which is pull. Doing predictive analytics is also extremely important. And there's a bunch more which I will not go through. Using customer journeys is also extremely important. You can have find activities for each one of those stages of a customer journey, find opportunities or link the enabling capabilities to each one of the stage of the customer journey. You can also use customer value map, which are extracted from a business model canvas where each customer segment is offered a value proposition made of products and services, and where needs, gains, and pains need to be fulfilled by products, services, benefits, and features. You also need to know very well the strategies of your company, handling business design and strategies. There are several ways and methodologies of doing this. These are rugged, proven ways of doing business design and strategy. I'll glance through each one of them very briefly, just to say that there is a video about this on our video YouTube channel called Iris Business Architect. And you can go at link and see exactly what can be done for business architects that are involved in business design and strategy. Balanced scorecards are used in some large corporations, just in Europe and more in the US. I'm not going to go through the detail. Value chain is also extremely common. People will often mix up value chain with the value streams. It needs to be explained. Value chain is closer to activities and processes that are necessary to deliver a product profitably. It's not a value chain at all, a value stream at all, which is more involved with what are necessary steps that are necessary to provide value to the customer or another stakeholder. Ocean Canary is also common. We have one of our clients has started using it, and they're not Asian. Japanese are the ones that started that stuff. Just in time is Ocean Canary, for those that know what just in time is. Business model canvas is extremely used and simple, and includes 9 boxes. The 2 most important ones are value positions and customer segments. It's extremely useful to get a one-page picture of an organization. The business moderation model is almost a necessity. You will typically try to get the mission, the vision, and the basic strategies from head office for high-end managers. And then it is the job of business architect to disseminate that information, strategies, and goals into tactics and objectives, which are not usually well defined, so that the mission and the vision of the enterprise is not lost through the cracks at lower levels. And this way you have a common objective all the way horizontally and vertically within an organization. Design thinking is extremely common to come up with new products and services. Telecom use this a lot, for example. Customer journeys is also extremely common to optimize and enhance relationship with your customer. And at the project level, SWOT analysis is common. It's been used for decades, and it's still very practical. You also need valuable data. And I will never stress this enough. It is important to have a modern data architecture. That's more related to enterprise architects, but it also relates to business architects. I'll show you in a second slide. Data is everywhere. It's used by everyone. I've seen stats recently, and on average, each individual on Earth consumes 22, the equivalent in data of 22 Netflix movies, 22 a day. And data is everywhere. We use it without knowing it really. And you need, and organizations need to make sense of it. They need to make sure that they keep their external and internal landing area and have data hub that are used by casual users, operational application users, power users. And it's imperative that the data is consistent from one application to another. And business architects with information concepts are very good at that. And nowadays, you've got data scientists that are using data sets in all kinds of ways, and artificial intelligence is also there, tagging raw data and making better applications with better decision making than often humans at very specialized tasks. Business architects will get involved with information concepts, which can be created or used by a capability, and it will be obviously stored in databases, and it is extremely important that data is consistent from one capability to another and from one application to another. And it is often in legacy organizations that have been around for a long time, their data is messy, very messy, and it needs to be cleaned up. What else may I say? Having roadmaps based on capabilities that have been measured and prioritized is also critical. Here's an example of a value stream with enabling capabilities. So you've got the obtained personal loan value stream with 5 stages and a bunch of enabling capabilities. Here they've been measured with a priority, critical being red, pink being very high. And this is important that you do that. You have no time to go through every one of your capabilities. You need to focus on those that are of high priority and forget the rest. And then you can measure them several ways: by priority, performance, business complexity. And yet most architects will only measure maturity, which is, personally, I think is fairly vague, as opposed to priority, performance, and business complexity. This is things that business stakeholders understand very well. And you'll focus on those that are of high priority, that are not performing well, and that are easy to do. You do the ones that are easy to do first, and then you do the ones that are the hardest afterward. And this is the way to maximize return on investment and please the sponsor and get things rolling and be a true entrepreneur in a large organization. In this case, there are 4 problematic capabilities, the red arrows, and some of our high priority, or to be more precise, a very high priority, but they're performing okay, so you don't need to get involved with them. Business capabilities, according to a survey that we've done recently, are not measured by most. If you combine the not really and the no, it is a total of about 50%. And there are only 12% that truly measure them in at regular intervals using customized and independent measurement techniques. It shouldn't be this way. Capabilities need to be measured. This way you can become much more agile and focus on those that matter. Once you've found your problematic capabilities, which are the 3rd line, you can then find your supporting applications and focus on building scenarios to improve any one of those applications that are not doing well. You can either add, delete, enhance, whatever. It's typical to have a few scenarios and then decide the best roadmap for that may be delivered through a bunch of projects afterward. This is an example of a roadmap, an initiative for that is linked to the problematic capabilities that you saw earlier. Okay, once you've defined your roadmap and build projects to deliver this roadmap, you need to make sure that your each one of your sub initiative or sub roadmap or sub project is linked to a business outcome. It's imperative. And a business outcome ideally needs to be linked to an objective. Or you can settle with a strategy. Objectives are goals, and objectives are always better than strategies and tactics, because they're extremely precise. We're going to increase our market share by such percentage in that time frame. Now, getting that from business stakeholders is extremely tricky, because they commit. And if it's not done, there may be consequences for them. So getting that objectives and goals is difficult. And you may have to settle for strategy and tactics, which are not as precise. Change management is also extremely important. Business and enterprise architecture are dealing with at a technical level, even though they kind of link business stakeholders to IT stakeholders. They're also always very close to delivering some kind of technology, some kind of innovation, and this will impact organizations, and most employees in an organization are extremely reluctant to any kind of change. There are a special bunch of people that are change managers, which can prepare people within the organization for change and make sure that changes are delivered in an understandable way, and make sure that if it's not understood well, that it can be reinforced through different methodologies. It should also be noted that an agile mindset is also very important. An organization cannot plan 5 years in advance or even 3 years in advance without making frequent changes. For example, our client FedEx every 6 months reassesses every one of their initiatives. Sometimes they may be 70% done with a project, and they may can it. They may decide not to put any more resources on it and focus on something else. That's called being an agile organization, because you know in advance it's not going to work. You weren't on the right track. You need to change. Facebook put $1 billion in Messenger. First, the first delivery of Messenger, they never launched it. They lost $1 billion because he was certain that it would fail. And so at times you've got to be ready to do those things because you know it's going to be a failure anyway. That said, there are many agile methodologies. You're seeing a few of them right here. And the ones that I prefer are the most used by our clients is SAFE. Many of our clients use SAFE. It's scalable, it's made for large organizations, and it works fairly well. This is what SAFE is all about. It's about agile release trains, which are typically teams of 100 person, including business analysts, architects, a bunch of developers, testers, etc., etc. And it's built around a value stream, and you may have several agile release trains focusing on the enabling capabilities of that value stream. They are not keen on architecture, and they have a very narrow-minded way of dealing with architecture. And I wrote a few articles to understand what agile architects can really provide in Agile projects to be valuable. And I invite you to maybe read a few of them. EAs are sometimes involved with Agile projects. 36% of them are involved with, somewhat involved with Agile, the planning of Agile projects. 33 are not at all, or well, 37 to be more precise. And those that are truly involved with planning is higher than I would have expected. A quarter of EAs are involved with Agile project planning. This is it. I think we've got close to 30 minutes for questioning. I think I went through this extremely quickly, Deidre. I hope there are questions.
It's really impressive. Yeah, I do hope there are questions too. So thank you so much, Daniel, for that. I think let's start a bit of a conversation. So you spoke about information and data, and we've had quite a few, various, thank you, that would be good. I had various, people who studying for CBA ask about this relationship, and how does this differ from data to information mapping to capability mapping, and how does this all work? Now, before you give me an answer, there's just a quick premise. My gut feel, and after having worked in kind of architecture and training, and currently with my studies as well in information systems, is that information modeling is going to become absolutely critical, because we have so much change happening so often, that the relationship, is actually going to become more important as we go through all this digital transformation in organizations than not. So what is your take on information concepts and data, and what do you see happening in the future?
Okay. Do you see my mouse?
Yes.
Okay. Business architects are involved mostly there.
Yeah.
Data architects are involved, well, all of that, but less here, okay? And now data warehouses have been around for a long time, but they're a nightmare to use and to change. The Facebook and the Google of this world have built external landing area of data and are storing just about everything. They're even storing everything that you that you Google, that you Gmail, that they're everywhere. Even your OS, whatever changes you do to your app, they store everything. Often they don't know why they'll do it, but just in case they store. And then it needs to be formatted and refined so that it becomes useful for businesses. Now, in all companies, you would build your system or your application, and you'd have your client, and the client would be replicated in another system, and the info wouldn't be identical. It's not uncommon for a client in a legacy organization, if he's using a product and a service and 3 or 4 products and services within the same, having to stipulate his name again and his address again, because the employee, and talk to a different employee, because the systems, they don't talk to each other. There's no data. There's no one that have built a common database, a master database that all applications can use. And that mess needs to be resolved. And business architects using information concepts, this can be made to contribution and assist them. And it's imperative. And you this way, a client should be identical for any applications that deal with clients. It should be identical. Even Apple, Apple being, a very venerated company. I was being billed for stuff that I didn't consume, and they made me go through 3 different systems, and I had to repeat my name every time and talk to different people 3 times in an hour-long conversation with technology-driven Apple, and which is, I believe, a old and legacy company with the most splendid marketing on earth. Everyone wants their iPhone, but I'm telling you, their management could be better. And
so I think that information concept, is such a critical bridge between what we're doing in our capabilities and then to our databases, and really having that linked. It's almost like having a library resource, really, to catalog and categorize and make sure that information is well formed, and that those databases can respond to those information concepts well. So I'm starting to see that it's becoming more and more important in my mind. I don't know if anyone agrees with me on that, but the second thing to discuss is projects. Now, here's a tough question, and you spoke about SAFe, and you spoke about business architects and the role, and enterprise architects and the role. Digital transformation happens so often. It's actually not change management anymore. It's almost BAU. And we'll ask a question from Marius. We'll answer that in a minute. So considering that business BAU, if digital transformation is BAU, then is project management necessary, or is proper architecture necessary, if that makes sense? Because it's almost as though we see these projects as things that we do, that are anomalies, or that are finite, changes. But actually what's happening is that there's a far more dynamic system in place at the moment, where businesses are having to change all the time, and even capturing requirements is outdated, 3 months into the project. And so this is why I'm so passionate about architecture, because you actually do need your blueprints. You need something to work with. What's your view on that?
Well, I would tend to agree. And this is why usually when we go and implement a business architecture practice in an organization where there's hardly any, or just a portion of enterprise architecture, we'll focus on finding a few initiatives, a few value streams with a few enabling capabilities, and focus on those. Make sure that people are happy, knowing that everything changes all the time. And then once you've architected all the elements surrounding the value stream that you're handling the enabling capabilities that are involved with those value streams. Once you define, this will be relatively stable. Now, the technology, the process, the people, the management, that's going to change at the speed of light, faster than ever. But the definitions of value streams, the definitions of capabilities are going to be stable despite all of this. So if you build your requirements based on capabilities, value streams, information concepts, well, then there's not that much to change. Now, if every time you start with a blank page and then bother a subject matter expert, ask questions, and the subject matter expert has seen 20 of you business analysts in the last month, he's going to be annoyed because he knows he's repeating. And he then suddenly thinks that there's no end to this thing. And there could be an end to this thing. And you could build, define, and plan requirements a lot quicker and change on a dime should you have a stable business architecture model. Did I answer your question, Deidre?
Spot on. I think we're on the same page there. Thank you, Daniel. So I have a question from Marius. So great talk, Daniel. Briefly, you contrasted value chains and value streams. Value streams also exist in other practices such as Lean. Could you elaborate on other disciplines that you know of that would have a similar name, value stream concept, but that may have semantic differences, and what would they be?
Okay.
Quite a deep level conversation there, but yeah.
No, I always keep things simple. I'm an entrepreneur. Talking fancy is not me. I'll never talk too fancy. So roughly said, we go into organizations and we start talking about value streams, and people say value chain all the time. And what I'll say to you is the following: forget value streams and use customer journeys instead. Ideally, you take your customer journeys and link every stage of the customer journey to the value stage of a value stream. Okay, this will have the chairman of the Business Architecture Guild happy. But in reality, people keep confusing value chain and value stream. So stop using value stream and start using customer journeys. Case settled, simple, and people keep using their value chain, which is, I've been in very large companies. I've seen one in a car manufacturer in Germany, and it's all screwed up. They call it a value chain. In reality, it's closer to value stream. But I'm not going to tell that company that they're screwed up. I adapt. And the reality of the thing is that you need to adapt to what they are. And if everyone agrees in the words and the methodology, and everyone works in synchronization, that's far more important than following standards 100%. You need to follow standards when you're passing your test to become a CBA. And then you need to readjust at the speed of light once you've got your CBA standard, and listen very well to your customers and make sure that you talk the same vocabulary as them. You will be talking about business capabilities. You will be talking about value streams and all that stuff that you've learned without ever mentioning words like business capabilities and value streams most of the time. They don't need to know that. Did I answer?
Sort of. So
because
I'll fill in some gaps. So with your customer journey maps, again, I had this conversation with, a learner about 2-3 days ago. I 100% agree that customer journey maps are probably the appropriate way to describe value stream, except it won't be customer, it will be stakeholder. So
Yeah.
you would change the
Agreed.
wording from a stakeholder journey map to that. Yes, it's not prescribed that way in the BizBook, but it certainly is. It does
Our
make
tool
sense.
is the same. It's a journey map,
Yeah.
and
So
it's for any stakeholder.
yeah, and for Marius, I mean, lean value streams are different. They have a different purpose. So it's not just semantics. The way they're constructed is, lean goes into a lot more detail around that. It's about removing waste fundamentally. And look, I'm not a specialist in lean, but the difference between value streams in terms of your architecture is more around how do we gain value, whereas lean is how do we eliminate waste. So their purposes are quite significantly different. So it does make it difficult in language terms because the meanings are not at all the same. So to answer your questions around that, I hope that answers your question.
I'll add to what you just said, which is I agree 100%. I should have said that. Thank you, Deidre. Value streams, the notions of value streams are not as old than those in lean. Lean are concepts of the 90s where finding cost savings everywhere was extremely important. And nowadays, value streams is a combination of finding new revenues and at a reasonable cost. It's about revenues, not just costs, as opposed to lean value streams. Would you agree with that, Deidre?
Yes.
Thank you.
There you go.
What
Okay.
else?
So are there any other questions? If you guys could just add to that. So if we can just go up a little bit on your slide, there was one area around the role of business architect that I would like to elaborate on a little bit further. Actually, before we go there, can you go to the customer journey maps? Yeah, because
Where is it? Oh,
you
there it
were
is.
there. No,
Yeah.
there was another one. There was another picture. Go up.
Okay. The one up is made with our tool.
That one. So although it's not showing you the customer journey map per se, you're looking at the stages. But I kind of like this because really, if you're thinking of business architecture in terms of blueprinting, the organization, or at least components of the organization, bringing in multiple components in really does make sense. So just to that conversation, this type of thing would probably be a good idea. And so can you just explain how you do this very briefly in the tool?
Yes. First of all, customer journeys or stakeholder journeys are have more steps than what you're seeing there. And it is often the case that they also have sub-stages. And this is usually done by marketers. And it includes goals. Every stage has a goal that is a goal of the stakeholder. And timeline can vary a lot. So the spiral one, the first one that you see there, this one there, is it's iterative, and this is bidirectional, this is unidirectional, etc., etc. You'll find activities which are close to processes for each one of them that you may have. You may have marketing opportunities involved in every one of those stages to where you can add some value. There are challenges, touch points, and experience. What's missing in there, should you be using customer stakeholder journeys instead of value streams, is the enabling capabilities. I use that a lot for each one of those stages. And the tricky part about stakeholders, do you keep only the level 1 and level 2 stakeholders, or do you go and get a level 4 enabling capability? This is depend on your audience. Usually they'll prefer something simple when you're using customer journeys, and so you mention only level 1 and level 2 capabilities, and don't go into the nitty-gritty detail. As I'm showing, for example, in the value stream here, this goes on forever, okay? And these are, see, this is a level 4 capability. We could simplify that by mentioning only the level 1 and level 2. But when you do that, you may end up with an initiative that where only one level 3 capability out of the 5 children of the level 2 capabilities is problematic. The rest is fine. And if you choose capabilities, level 3, 4 capabilities, you will avoid that. And your initiatives, the cost of your initiative will be leaner. So it all depends on the audience. When you refine a roadmap and make sure not to spend too much and focus, you may want to dig deeper. Okay, what else do you want to see?
We have another question. This is probably a hot topic. So from BizBark, and I might just break this down into several questions. So from BizBark, the value stream and capability mapping is quite foundational and important. Our company have built up capabilities models down to level 4. So, however, the value stream is not created fast enough, as when we from EA team to talk to business in different initiatives, normally mapping between capability and application. So I think what you're saying here is that we don't really go into the value streams that much. We focus more on capabilities and applications and business processes.
This is the number one use of capabilities.
Yeah.
Managing your applications. This is what EA does very well. If they do business architecture, usually it'll be processes, which is hardly mentioned in business architecture, and capabilities. So there's no escape from that. Finding the supporting applications and systems of capabilities is critical. Now you've got this person and their company has capabilities up to level 4, so probably means several hundreds. They need to be measured. They need to be prioritized. They need to find out if their performance is high or low, or at least settle for maturity, which I find too vague, but you can at least find the maturity of your capability. And now there are several ways of doing it. You can do them all. That's a little waste of time. Or you can go through a value stream, find the enabling capabilities, and focus on those. and forget the rest. You're there to find value, create value, make money, and forget the rest. Now, if that's the primary use of value streams, and if you're not using value streams, well, your efforts is diluted throughout every one of your capabilities, and it's not as useful.
I would agree. So the end of that question was, it's not easy to digest to common value stream effectively because different markets project could, okay, could you give some comments on how we can improve? So yeah, please, please explain.
Oh,
If someone could
maybe,
talk.
yeah. Can you hear me, Daniel and David?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe I didn't make myself clear. So actually, when I see the mapping to the processes, normally we are talking with the different local market business team. So they intend to talking their local way of working. So they tell me or tell you about the process, the activities, or the procedure. But the value stream actually is, I want to say, is ideally we have our common global level value stream. Otherwise, we are intense to see, so we collect different markets language or vocabulary about the process. We will easily to create some local language-based value stream or local language-based capability. So that is thing we try to prevent. But the conflict here is our architect team is, we'll have our global team, but our budget, I think it maybe is the common in many more companies. Our budget is based on the local market, P&L. So they drag us to go to do the local project. It's not easy to see, it's find this balance of synergy. So we try to promote capability. When I say level 3, level 4, we create a common capability model, but that thing is okay for now. But if we want to go to a common value stream, I think we see not so easy, because value stream, we see level 1, we have a global one. But when we want to breaking down, we see every market, they have a different kind of different process possible. But that to us is if we appreciate all the markets, that's not possible.
We've solved this in a financial institution in one of our clients, and the way is measure by region. Okay, you measure your capabilities by region, and it's possible that a capability is very good in such region and not so good in other regions. For whatever reason, maybe an application is not implemented in region B, and it was implemented by region A, and region A and region B, they don't talk to each other because they hate their guts, so whatever. There's all kinds of reasons why this can be. And by measuring capabilities, you may solve that problem. That's how we've solved it. And the measurements were of level 1 and level 2 capabilities. And you can dig into the important ones and go to level 3 and 4 of those that are problematic or very important to you.
So are you trying to keep some language mapping from some maybe global or regional? You have one capability naming, but you have a market capability namings. Just I think it's some.
Well, ideally, you need the same name from one region to another. And language, you mean word, because in Canada, we speak either English or French. Everything is I'm
I
sure
could
that's
put it
not what
all
you
in
meant.
English.
Okay, so ideally, the name has got to be identical, and it needs to be discussed. And when you're tired of people arguing for eternity, you go to the boss and say, what is it going to be? And the boss decides. There's nothing wrong with that. Because some people like to argue. I've seen people argue for crying out loud something so unimportant, and it can drag on for an hour. And this has got to be avoided as much as possible. And the simplest way to do that is ask the boss.
I fully
and
agree.
hopefully, yeah, you know, bosses are very useful, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
appreciate it. Thank you.
I think if you can add some of, and again, going back to that information concepts idea, if you can expand on the information to include those kind of, to just add clarity, I suppose. And remember, with value streams, it doesn't have to be on any level. So you can do different value streams in different areas as well. You don't have to have necessarily every region has the same value stream. They still all need to have the capabilities. And if you took the information concept and you expanded it, then you might solve some of those problems as well, because now you're providing clarity, which is what you need in at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Okay, so another question here is, customer journey map, is it used in all business architecture scenarios? So I'm going to just step in there and say, well, firstly, when you are studying for your exam, no. So I just want to make it clear. So when we look at your professional, you know, understanding the profession of business architecture, it's really good to have a standard. It's one of the reasons why I do the training, because we all use the same language and we all understand how we architect in the different organizations and the different situations. When you are practicing business architecture, you can use multiple types of methodologies. Like you could use customer journey mapping, you could use design thinking, you could use SAFe, you could use waterfall, whatever you feel like using, or whatever the team says you should use. But if you studying for certification, we do not include customer journey maps as a practice. It is a suggested methodology. They have included it in chapter in the BizBook 10, but in the core business architecture, customer journey mapping is not part of that. So I'm just giving you a bit of a caveat here, just to say depends on the scenario that we're working with. When you're actually working in business scenarios, so if you're in business working on a project, I would say absolutely use customer journey maps, because it's a good, it creates like almost a sandbox for you to work with, to really understand what all those components look like and how you would put them all together. Sorry, Daniel.
No problem. Listen, if you want to get certified as a CBA, I urge you to listen to Deidre. Me, I'm an entrepreneur. I do what works to satisfy a client, and this will be different. Our tool is exactly how Deidre said it. It is based on standard, and it's aligned to BizBook for the business architecture proportion. It's aligned to TOGAF for the enterprise architecture portion, It's allowing to Babok for the requirement stuff, and it's aligned to BPMN for the process stuff. But reality dictates that we must be able to customize our tool so that it's usable with an organization. Every one of them say when they begin using our tool, oh, we'll follow standards, we need to. And then they start talking and 99% of people agree that this is good. So this is perfect. If everyone in an organization agree to a methodology, even if it's not standardized, keep using it. Because otherwise you've got training to do, you've got a bunch of arguments to do, it never ends. But this is practice. This is not getting your certification.
So
Did I confuse everyone?
No, I think we're all good. I mean, the practice of architecture is a very valuable practice. We all need to understand what's involved, but when it comes to working, in organizations, we need to have that adaptability, and we need to be able to respond to the environment. And this is what I was mentioning earlier, as business architects, one of our key roles is, if we can start architecting change more effectively, we certainly will save a lot of people's time and effort in trying to run project after project after project. That was where I was going earlier. But I think we've kind of run out of time. So
yes, we sure did.
Which is good. In other words, we've been engaged the whole time. So if there aren't any other questions, we're going to close off the session. It will be recorded. So just want to check. Yeah, can't see any right now. So Daniel, I want to thank you again for being a superstar and sharing your time and insight with us.
You're the superstar, Deidre, not me.
So much flattery.
I'm not going to Stanford University teaching others.
Anyway, so thank you very much for your time and for your insight and your knowledge. It's much appreciated. If anyone does have further questions, please feel free to contact us, and there will be a recording available. So well done. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.